Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is The Raptor, and today is May 22nd, 2017, and that means that I have been doing Who'd Win and Why, my very own opinionated versus show where I talk to you guys about different versus ideas. I've been doing it for 1 year now, exactly, and that is actually pretty crazy if you ask me. Like, honestly, I feel like I haven't even started that long ago, but we've already been doing it for a year, and that's honestly really cool in my opinion. I just think that's, like, again, like, I just feel like I just started. I know it sounds really odd to say that because, it's been such a long time and we've had like 62 episodes, over 6 seasons now. But honestly, it really feels like, with Joker versus Sweet Tooth, and then I did Joker versus Green Goblin, my first Who'd Win and Why. It honestly feels like it wasn't that long ago. So yeah, I think it's really cool that we've made it to 1 year. I don't want to say that I never thought we'd make it because, I didn't know how long the show was going to go on when I first started doing it. But, still, 1 year, I still think that's pretty impressive. I think that's something to celebrate, so that's why I'm making this video. So essentially what this video is I'm going to be telling you guys my bottom 5 Who'd Win and Whys ever. Those are the 5 that I think are the absolute worst of the bunch, and my top 5 Who'd Win and Whys ever. Generally I haven't thought about really doing this because I thought, me, the creator, making a list like this, I just didn't really think it would really work that well. But, I'm just deciding to do it, and yes, I know Cartoon Fight Club already did this, but I just thought I might as well do something special for the 1 year anniversary, I guess you can call it. Originally, what I was going to do was make some sort of special episode, but because of the whole way like that I coordinate things and that the episodes don't come out at a steady pace, I knew that was just going to be way too hard to do, especially if I was going to try to tell you guys previously in a schedule video, so I just thought that was going to be way too hard. Maybe for another time, I don't know, but then again, I'll still have that problem. But at least for this year, for this 1 year anniversary, I'm going to be doing my bottom 5 and my top 5 Who'd Win and Whys. Now remember that just because I say that, that doesn't mean that they're like the 5 best or the 5 worst. This is just my opinion. And you guys, you might like someone might like a video that's much different from mine. Someone might even really like a video that I'm putting in the bottom 5, so who knows, it's just my own opinion. And I know I have said some of my favorites before or something like that, but that's not what this video is. Essentially what I'm going to be doing is factoring in a ton of different things, including the fight idea itself, the way I presented it, and many other things like that. Basically just to say overall which are the best episodes in my opinion. Not my favorites, but the bests. So that's essentially what and the worst. So that's essentially what we're doing. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. So I'm going to start off with the 5 worsts. And for me, my number 5 worst Who'd Win and Why ever, in my opinion, is Bane vs. Juggernaut, which was Season 1, Episode 4, I believe. Now, this one was a very early episode, and that's one of the reasons why I put it on this list. Basically because, like, a lot of the earlier episodes, they're much shorter, and I know some of you might actually like that, you might prefer the shorter episodes, but basically they just don't have nearly as much information as the newer ones, and they're just not as well said. They're not as well spoken, in my opinion. I know I stutter in, like, pretty much all my videos, but I think you guys get what I'm saying. And it suffers because of that. Another big reason why it suffers is just because of the fight idea itself. I'm not trying to like say that like, oh my god, the person that suggested this is like so stupid for suggesting it, but let me just say a bit of backstory on this one, just in case you guys didn't know. The original fight that I was going to do for Season 1, Episode 4 was actually Bane versus Rhino, which was something someone else suggested, but then he said, don't do it, it's actually there's actually an obvious answer, so I said okay, and then someone actually suggested a replacement that I could do. However, when I did that replacement, it was actually even more of an obvious answer. Now, I'm not going to say who won. I'm not going to try to say who won. Maybe I will at some point, but I'll give a spoiler warning if I end up doing that. But anyway, yeah, so basically it was even more of an obvious answer, and I'm not going to spoil it, but if you guys know these characters pretty well, I think you'd know who wins between Bane and Juggernaut. But anyway, those are my reasons why that's my number 5 worst Who'd Win and Why. Now, my number 4 worst Who'd Win and Why would have to be Azrael versus Taskmaster, which was Season 1, Episode 6. Again, just the fact that I said Season 1 already makes it that it's not the best episode. It was way back then, like way back, I forget which month, probably either like May or June or something like that. No, actually July or something, I don't know. But the point is, it was much back then, very far back, and it just suffered because of that. I just didn't have like the same information that I do now, just the same quality of like the content that I'm putting out. I like to think I've gotten better. But anyway, so that's basically where I stand with that. Another reason is because I basically had one big reason for why I had one person beat the other person, and I felt like after rewatching it, I kept repeating that same thing over and over and over again, and it got a bit repetitive, and the more I look at it now, the more I think some people might think, oh, is that the only reason? Which honestly is not the case. That's not the only reason. Again, you'd have more context if you watched the video. It's a big reason, but it wasn't the only reason, and when I watch it now, I might be thinking if I'm another person who watched it, like just a complete stranger just stumbled onto my channel, I might think, okay, this guy's thinking that that's the only reason. So, yeah, that's basically where I stand with that. That's one of the few episodes that I think, okay, not few episodes, but that's one of the episodes where I really, really think that it would have been so much better if I did it now. But I did it then, and that's basically the reasons why it's my number 4 worst Who'd Win and Why. Now, my number 3 worst Who'd Win and Why would probably have to be Batman Beyond versus RoboCop. And some of you guys might be thinking, wait, why the heck is that one of my worst? Or in my opinion, I guess. And you're right. This was like season 6, episode 8. It was actually one of my more recent episodes when you look at the playlist. And the idea itself is fine. The main reason why I didn't like it is basically just because what I said. Basically, the whole reason how I chose a winner was by a hypothesis. And, you'll have more context of what that means if you watch the video. But that's generally what I don't like doing. I don't like saying, oh, well, I'm theorizing that this would happen, and that's why I think this person would win. Although with that kind of fight, maybe it's just because I couldn't find it, but then it was actually there, right under my nose, but I couldn't find the right research that could actually give me a 100% or 100% guaranteed answer. I had to go off a hypothesis. I still stand true to who I say won, but again, if my hypothesis is debunked, then pretty much the whole thing is debunked. So, again, that's probably why it's my number 3 worst Who'd Win and Why. Now, my number 2 worst Who'd Win and Why would probably have to be Electro versus Electrocutioner. And I might be a bit biased when I put this on the worst list, because some of you guys may have already known that is personally my least favorite Who'd Win and Why of the bunch. And again, that's just because of the fight itself. One person, I don't want to give away who won, but basically the point is just one person's weapon or what they use is essentially useless against the other person. And again, if you know these characters very well, you probably already know what I'm talking about, or if you saw the episode, you know what I'm talking about. In fact, now that I think about it, if you're watching this, you've probably watched some of those episodes anyway, and you probably wouldn't be going back to watch, okay, whatever, but I'm still not going to spoil anything just in case. But anyway, so yeah, that's probably why it's my number 2. It's just because the fight, it overall made for a not so entertaining video, just because the outcome was pretty obvious if you knew the characters. So yeah, it overall didn't make for a very interesting video. Sure, you might have learned some stuff, but overall, again, it was an earlier one. I think it was season 2, episode 8. So again, it was an earlier one, and just because it just wasn't very climactic or anything like that. So I'd probably have to say that is my number 2 worst Who'd Win and Why. And with those said, my number 1 worst Who'd Win and Why ever would probably have to be the movie Spider-Man Battle Royale. And some of you guys may be thinking, wait, what? Why the heck is that your least favorite? And the reason for that is because every time I look at the thumbnail, I'm thinking, oh boy, I got so much wrong in that one. There are some things that I said about all 3 Spider-Men that are clearly just wrong now. I completely lowballed the feats for the Tom Holland Spider-Man, and I kind of overestimated and underestimated a ton of stuff for the 3 Spider-Men. So yeah, and then even the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man I can look back at, probably the one I was most accurate with, and I can even see I lowballed some stuff for him too. And that is one of the only ones right now that I'm actually thinking I might want to do a rematch for. And keep in mind, if I was to do that, I'd probably have to wait for Spider-Man Homecoming to come out, because that's a big reason, again, why I feel so bad about it, because, MCU Spider-Man is not finished yet with his story. And also, if I was to do it, oh, by the way, spoiler alert, I would probably put the winner of that episode up against Tom Holland Spider-Man, and that's it, because Tom Holland did not win. I won't say who won between the other two, but yeah, I'd probably just be those two, because, why put the other loser in there, even though I did probably get some calculations wrong for that guy as well. It's just probably I would just do the previous winner and Tom Holland, since his story is still going. So yeah, that one would probably be my number 1 worst Who'd Win and Why ever. And with those battles out of the way, let's move on to my top 5 Who'd Win and Whys in my opinion. So for me, number 5, I would probably have to say is the Future Robin Battle Royale, or as it's actually titled, Nightwing versus Red Hood versus Red Robin. And the reason why this is probably my number 5 is because, they all basically were the same person. I know that some people people might mark me down for that because obviously they had like different personalities and had different strengths, but they all were basically Robin. They were all Batman's sidekick. And now, after they're all finished, after they've grown up, they're completely different people now. You know, Nightwing, and then Red Hood, this like brought back to life assassin, and then you have like Tim Drake as well, as Red Robin. You know, they're now completely different. And you know, when you analyze how they are like now, when they're like in their future states, they're very different, and they have very different strengths and weaknesses. And when you just compare the future versions, I think it's really cool to compare what has an advantage over the other. You know, who would actually win in a battle to the death between these three characters. So yeah, and I thought it was pretty well said. I went into as much detail as I could with like almost every category after watching it again, so I'm pretty proud of myself. I'm not trying to be like narcissistic or anything, but I am pretty proud of myself for it. So I'd probably say that that's my number 5 top Who'd Win and Why. And now, my number 4 Who'd Win and Why would probably have to be Thanos versus Darkseid. Now, this one was a very recent fight that just happened. You know, it was the Season 6 finale, Season 6, Episode 10, and so far we've only had 2 episodes of Season 7 so far. I hope you guys have enjoyed them. But anyway, so yeah, this was a very recent episode. And the reason why I really like doing this one is because I know that there are a lot of other channels that have already made their own Thanos versus Darkseid fights, or Darkseid versus Thanos, whatever the title of that video is. But what I really like doing is analyzing them without the Infinity Gauntlet and without the anti-life equation. Because some people like to say, oh, like at their max, when they have what they're searching for, you know, who would actually win. However, I didn't like to do that for like obvious reasons. But yeah, when they're not at their max, when they don't have what they're looking for, like, you know, like Darkseid looking for the anti-life equation and Thanos looking for the Infinity Gauntlet, when they don't have that, who would actually win? If it was like a random encounter in their storylines, generally, who would win between the two? And, you know, I did do a different format, just because, like, but that's basically just because they were so similar, and I basically went category by category, rather than, character by character. So these two characters are so similar, I quite like them both, actually, and yeah, just the fight idea is great, and, I just thought the episode overall was pretty good, so yeah, that would probably be my number 4 Who'd Win and Why. My number 3 Who'd Win and Why would probably have to be Jack Frost versus Killer Frost. This was in the Christmas season, if you guys didn't already put that together. But yeah, some of you may actually be a bit surprised by this. Why is this on my very best? Well, that's basically because how the fight played out. Again, I really don't want to give away any spoilers, but basically what I'm trying to say is that one of them is pretty much resistant to the cold, and the other one is not. In fact, this person actually gets powered by more heat, something along the lines of that. And so even though the fight can be pretty obvious with like going in with this knowledge, I think it really shows how important the research is. You really got to look into what the specific advantages each person has over the other, and one of them is specifically going to kill the other with cold abilities. And plus, it's also someone like Jack Frost, who's not a superhero or a supervillain, and of course, we switch things up. We like to switch things up a bit. I like to switch things up a bit, so I take like some of those more random fights. So yeah, that's really like going into it and really researching through it and really like looking at what these two characters have over each other. That's really what defines a victor. And this episode, like, says that pretty well. So yeah, I'd probably say that's my number 3 Who'd Win and Why. Speaking of random fights, my number 2 Who'd Win and Why would probably be Godzilla versus Powerpuff Girls. And again, some of you may be thinking, why the heck is this number 2 on the list? Well, first of all, the fight idea is just amazing. You know, Godzilla, he's a monster, and then the Powerpuff Girls, they fight monsters. Can they handle the King of Monsters? You know, they don't necessarily have to be similar for it to work out really well. And also, just because of the math that I did in it. Some of you may have known, if you already watched this video, that I did some math in it, in the sense that, like, I tried to calculate how durable Godzilla would be, or something like that. I forget exactly what it is. But yeah, I basically did some calculations, and I still stand by that. I don't, unless no one has corrected me on it yet. But anyway, so yeah, I just feel that with that in mind, and just with the whole fight concept idea in general, you know, I just like doing a fight like that. I just thought it was pretty entertaining. I hope you guys thought it was pretty entertaining. But yeah, and some of you might think it was a weird matchup. Sure, it maybe was a weird matchup, but I like the way that I presented it, and I also just really like the way that, I just like the fight idea, and, you know, just the way that I, explained it at the end. So yeah, that's probably why it's my number 2 Who'd Win and Why. And now, my number one Who'd Win and Why of them all, in my opinion, would probably have to be Captain America versus Deathstroke. And before you guys say anything, I already know what some of you guys are going to say. Didn't you already say that most of the Season 1 Who'd Win and Whys are pretty bad, but this is a Season 1 Who'd Win and Why? Didn't you say this was like your favorite Who'd Win and Why episode, and yet you're just picking favorites? You said you weren't going to do that. Are you biased? Are you at any point biased in all of this? And the answers to those questions are yes, yes, and possibly, like, who knows, maybe, but there is a good reason why it's my favorite episode. First of all, the fight idea is just awesome. These are both super soldiers that are both very good when it comes to strategy, but that's pretty much where the similarities end. You know, one of them stands for truth, justice, and freedom, and has, you know, a shield that he throws, and the other one is like an assassin, you know, that carries a ton of guns and a lot of different, just a lot of different weapons and gadgets, if you want to call them that. And you know, like, they're very different. You know, one's a good guy, one's a bad guy, but they are both super soldiers, and I really like that for some reason, I guess. And also, I felt that when I was doing it, like, rewatching it, I brought up pretty much every single point that I could think of between the two. Again, I'm not going to spoil who won, but I still feel very confident in my answer. I know that there might have been some people that disagree with me with it, but again, it's just my opinion, so that's okay. But anyway, yeah, I just thought that it was pretty well constructed for a Season 1 episode, and like I said, there's a good reason why it's my favorite. Looking back at it, I see that I mentioned pretty much everything I could have. Everything that comes to mind now, I mentioned back then, and that's not always what I can find when I look back at other episodes, you know, Season 1 and Season 2 episodes. So, yeah, that's probably, I know I said it was my favorite, but that is probably why it is my number one Who'd Win and Why ever. So guys, those are my worsts, those were my bests. I really hope you guys enjoyed this 1-year anniversary video. Which episodes did you find pretty bad? Which ones did you find pretty good? Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below if you want to. The next episode, which is going to be Season 7, Episode 3, is going to be Sonic vs. Quicksilver. I'm really excited for that one. I hope you guys are. Who do you guys think are going to win? Do you think Sonic's going to win? Do you think Quicksilver's going to win? I already have an idea of who's going to win in mind, but I haven't filmed it or anything yet. So tell me down in the comments below who you think's going to win. If you enjoyed this video, you know, you can give that like button a click. I always appreciate the likes. And if you somehow are new and stumbled onto the channel, please consider subscribing, because that would really help me out, and I would love to have you along for the ride. I hope you guys enjoy the channel. I know that I'm not going to stop this anytime soon. At least I hope not. If I do, then it's just something abrupt that even I don't know about. However, I am getting very, very busy with school right now, and who knows when the next episodes are going to come out. But just bear with me. I love doing this, and I will get to it as soon as possible. Get to all the episodes, and then when summer starts up, I'll probably be able to do it at a faster rate. At least to some degree, I'll be able to do it faster. But yeah, that's pretty much all for me. Again, thank you guys so much for being with me through 1 year. Even if you haven't been with Who'd Win and Why, or like the channel, for that long, I still appreciate you watching, and I still appreciate you enjoying Who'd Win and Why, and coming back and liking and just commenting and being a part of the discussion. So thank you guys so much. It really means so much to me. And yeah, that's all I got. So see you later, and have a good night.